right now in relation to the Latino community. The Latin Times is a digital news agency which focuses on creating news for Latin Americans in the U.S. And I want to know a little bit about who you are, what's your past, where are you from? I assume you're Latina. What's your background? That sort of stuff. What do you think needs to happen with Dreamers? What is Biden Harris's position moving forward with that, and your position too?
Well, let me tell you, President Biden and Vice President Harris has taken, unprecedented steps to protect dreamers, to grant, that they have access to healthcare, for example. But at the end of the day, Joshua, what this country needs, it's, a comprehensive immigration reform. And President Biden introduced that reform, that project, that bill on the very first day on office, and Republicans keep blocking it, blocking it, blocking it. Dreamers, this is the only home they know, and President Biden knows that, and he'll keep fighting for them. But at the end of the day, we need Congress to act, and President Biden calls them every day to do so.
So I've spoken with a Republican representative in the past, and he told me that what he thinks needs to happen with immigration is that they need to first take care of the Latinos who are in the U.S. right now who are not documented yet. Moving forward, how do you think Biden Harris can take care of the Latinos who are already in this country that still do not have documents?
Well, a few weeks ago, for example, President Biden redesignated TPS for Venezuelans. That's a good example. That's going to be an expedite, it's going to give an expedite wait to Venezuelans, which is, I think, is more than 4,100 Venezuelans to get their work permit and to expedite the process. But at the end of the day, it's exactly the same. Dreamers that have been here for the whole life, that, they got here when they were babies. They don't even speak other languages. Like, this is their only home. The only way to get dreamers the citizenship they deserve, it's through an immigration reform that is not even, it hasn't been possible only because of the Republicans.
On that point, how does Biden want to reform immigration moving forward? And if he were to be reelected, how would he reform it? Um, and also, how do what do the Latinos need right now in that regard of immigration?
Regarding immigration, that reform, like, President Biden wants to install a order, humane and secure immigration system. The first step for that would be the immigration reform that would grant the citizenship to all the dreamers that have been waiting for years, to own that right that is their citizenship. And, President Biden, he will keep fighting for immigrants and, pushing that narrative from the Republicans that we are, rapists, killers, um, you name it, like sending us in planes to other cities without even explaining us what we're doing, or even lying to us, or trying, to end the birthright. Like, President Biden is going to keep fighting for us. And I believe that in a second mandate, he'll keep fighting, to reach finally that immigration reform that we need.
Mhm. So I spoke in the past with the Republican representative for the GOP or the RNC, and he said that he feels as if there's a crisis going on, and that he feels that there's an open border going on right now at the southern border. Um, how moving forward, what's Biden going to do with the southern border and to speed up the asylum process? Because a big complaint is that the asylum process takes too long. The wait to get the permit to work is too long, and this is causing a lot of issues that people might not even know that if they're going to get granted asylum for a couple years. So how is Biden going to reform this moving forward?
There are a few things. The first thing I'm going to say, there's never been an open border. And actually, right now, after the lifting of Title 42, there are passing less, there are like less illegal pass crosses in the border than in the last 4 years, I would say. The first thing that we have to consider is like President Biden inherit a chaos from the Trump administration. Like this administration, Joe Biden is still trying to reunite the kids that Trump put on cages with their families. We're talking about even infants that were separated from their mothers. They weren't even, like even lactant, like people that they were still breastfeeding, they were separated from their mothers. And Biden is still trying to reunify those families. The chaos that President Biden inherited in the border, you cannot even start to picture that, like families separated, children in cages, you know, a very, very negligent system. And it took time to start putting order to that. It was really, really, it was really tragic to see what was going on there. Then, with the lifting of Title 42, less people crossing over, like President Biden just announced a few measures last week. Some people is going to start being deported if they don't have like a legal reason to be in the country. But again, we need that reform to fix the whole system, because President Biden can, he does walks the extra mile, but to fix the full situation, Congress need to act. One
And
thing I forgot to say that is important, Josh. I'm sorry that I interrupt you.
oh, no worries.
Trump's administration, they took so many funds and they are still trying to defund like the security forces of the border. And even in DHS, like in the Homeland Department security, there is a backlog because Trump's administration fired half of the people. And now President Biden keeps, like investing more funds, to help the system to break the backlog. But Republicans, they keep, blocking it and blocking it and blocking it. And when you mention that someone from the RNC, from the GOP told you that, listen, they talk a lot. And I believe that they still want our problems to be even worse than they are, to keep talking about it. But at the time to find a solution, there's no one around. They don't even go to vote. They don't even go to the floor. They don't even pretend that they care.
So do you feel like for Latinos, um, Democrats such as Biden Harris will support the immigrant Latino more so than the Republicans would support immigrant Latinos?
For sure. If Republicans, as I said, Trump says that we are like killers and drug kingpins, and DeSantis is sending us in planes and buses to other states without telling us where we're even going. And you have Tex Abbott, another Republican, putting like weapons to kill people on the border. They are extremely anti-immigrants. The GOP, though all those candidates that are running for president from the Republican Party, they all push that Trump's MAGA agenda, like that is extremely anti-immigrant, extremely xenophobic, and it really hurts our community.
Do you think a lot of these issues with immigration reform stems from um, the RNC, the DNC not being able to work together when it comes to policies?
No, I don't think so, because Democrats, they keep bringing the solutions. President Biden introduced the reform the very first day he go to the Oval Office, like that immigration reform that we need, and Republicans, they didn't pass it. They blocked it. So that's the reality is that we bring the solutions and they just block it because they are anti-immigrants, profoundly anti-immigrants.
And could you give me some examples of some of the things that Biden Harris uh, could reform moving forward when it comes to immigration?
Well, if we get to that immigration reform that we need, dreamers would become citizens, for example. like people that has the right to receive an asylum would do. President Biden would be able to inject more funds to DHS, for example, and to move the backlog. Uh, um, the healthcare situation would improve even more than it did already. He's basically trying, for us to have the same opportunities that everyone else.
And I just wanted to touch on this subject again, but the reform of immigration, specifically, what does Biden want to do in that area moving forward? How does he want to address the influx of people coming at the border?
There is a, a bill already that was submitted that he did on the very first date in office. And the plan is to install, like a humane, order, and secure system, starting, with the Latinos that are already in, and the system to, let them in. It will be exactly the same. People have the right to, an asylum if they have a cause to ask for it, and refugees, but we have to fix the situation at home with that needed immigration reform, comprehensive, that have like very different steps. The Dreamers is one, funding to DHS, funding the border security, um, and that's something that it's included in that immigration reform.
And moving forward, does Biden want to, I guess, I don't want to say take advantage, but
I
use the
have I have 3 minutes.
yeah, that's fine, that's fine. But with the people who are coming into this country, right, for asylum and things like that, does he want to have them, become part of the workforce? All these Latinos who are coming to the U.S.
Of, of course, if you are entering to the United States because you have a cause to be grant a political asylum, you will get a work permit, as it's been like always. And if you can prove uh that you are eligible to be granted an asylum, for sure there's going to be a path for you to work, for you to even to become a resident at some point, following the process that is already in cost, like the current process.
And so, with funding DHS, is there going to be a possibility of speeding up that 6-month wait process to get a work permit?
Right now, last week, he announced an injection of funds, and that's the plan to address that issue with that investment.